Welcome to the battlefield of brains, where strategy meets chaos, and every move burns with intensity. Watch grandmasters clash, pieces fall, and legends rise. Wesley So opens with e4, pushing the pawn boldly into the center, seizing space and unleashing his bishop and queen like a general mobilizing troops. Plinio Pazos answers g6, a hypermodern fianchetto setup, signaling he's planning a long sneaky defense. Wesley plays d4, taking the center with authority, pawns forming the backbone of a future onslaught. Plinio slides big e7, fianchetto bishop, guarding the long diagonal, defensive but lurking for counterattacks. Wesley advances nc3, developing a knight with an eye on di5 and e4, reinforcing the center and preparing pressure. Plinio pushes c5, striking at the center, a Sicilian-esque attempt to unbalance White's pawns. Wesley captures the dx5, snatching the pawn and challenging Black's setup immediately. Plinio recaptures with k5, queen pinning and eyeing the c5 pawn, tricky, but slightly exposed. Wesley develops bd2, shielding the pawn and preparing to exchange or challenge the queen with style. Plinio snatches the pawn with qxi5, greedily grabbing material, but his queen may now be vulnerable. Wesley maneuvers nd5, knight jumps into an aggressive outpost, threatening 7 and e7 squares, smelling blood. Plinio defends na6, knight protecting 7, but looks clunky, cramped, and slightly awkward. Wesley continues with nf3, developing another knight and preparing to castle. His army is coordinating smoothly. Plinio plays e6, opening lines for his dark-squared bishop, shoring up the center carefully. Wesley develops bc3. Bishop eyes the long diagonal, putting pressure on the center and potentially the king's side. Plinio pushes f6, reinforcing f5 and controlling g5, a tense pawn move that feels slightly weakening. Wesley strikes with b4, gaining space on the queen side and threatening to push Black's queen around. Plinio responds coup-feet, retreating the queen defensively, temporarily saving it from the coming storm. Wesley pushes n3, knight maneuvering into the center, aiming at c4 and d5, a quiet threat-building tension. Plinio grabs the pawn with nxb4, knight snatches material, but now it's deep in enemy territory. Wesley positions qd2, queen eyes the knight, and the long diagonal, preparing a tactical punch. Plinio jumps and cheeks, repositioning the knight and covering b4, trying to untangle his pieces. Wesley develops nc4, knight to c4, threatening a fork and increasing pressure on Black's fragile setup. Plinio slides qe5, centralizing the queen and keeping the tension high, but he's under fire. Wesley retreats bb2, bishop consolidates and eyes the long diagonal, watching Black's king. Plinio brings bh6, bishop actively pinning, trying to provoke weaknesses in White's camp. Wesley repositions. qd-don, queen retreats slightly, maintaining flexibility and keeping options open. Plinio pushes d5, striking at the center, opening lines, a bold attempt to equalize. Wesley slides ba3. Bishop now threatens Black's queen and coordinates with the rook. Pressure mounts. Plinio jumps nb4, knight attacks bishop, trying to kick white back, but the coordination is shaky. Wesley strikes x5, pawn captures pawn, opening the center. The battlefield is alive. Plinio recaptures x5, a necessary reply, keeping material balance but exposing his king slightly. Wesley pushes k3, threatening the knight, and preparing to control the center, tightening the noose. Plinio plays f5, a pawn thrust to distract white, but it looks more defensive than aggressive. Wesley captures cxb4. Pawn takes pawn, white's queenside pawns dominate, opening lines for rooks. Plinio recaptures axb4, keeping material balanced but the position feels like a sieve. Wesley slides q to wing, queen checks the king, pieces coordinating for tactical shots. Plinio moves k5, king dodges the check, tucking behind pawns but exposed in the long run. Wesley develops bb2. Bishop eyes diagonal with deadly precision, preparing future attacks. Plinio pushes dxc4, capturing the pawn. Material is traded, but white's initiative grows stronger. Wesley So calmly slides bd4, bishop centralizes, controlling critical diagonals, and tightening the grip on black's position. Plinio Pazos repositions, ktt, queen steps back, trying to defend, but feeling the pressure mounting. Wesley captures qxec4, queen snatches pawn, increasing material and opening more lines toward black's king. Plinio responds b6, bishop blocks, trying to hold the line, but white's forces are coordinated and relentless. Wesley captures qxbslu, queen snatches pawn with check, keeping the initiative firmly in his hands. Plinio shifts kf7, king moves into a slightly safer square, but the battlefield is already crumbling. Wesley retreats qb2. Queen maintains pressure, eyeing the long diagonal and cutting off escape routes. Plinio pushes re8. Rook centralizes, bringing heavy artillery to defend, but white's army is faster. Wesley develops b3. Bishop coordinates with rook and queen, building an unstoppable network of firepower. Plinio slides bc4, bishop trades or threatens, a desperate attempt to reduce white's pressure. Wesley captures bxc4 eddy, bishop takes bishop, maintaining initiative and leaving black's defenses open-eyed. Plinio recaptures qxc4, queen returns to defend, material roughly equal, but white's activity dominates. Wesley moves Zeracone, rook centralizes, eyeing the semi-open file and preparing decisive action. Plinio counters with q6, queen occupies central line, trying to trade off attackers and breathe. Wesley doubles rooks with rc7e, rook check, forcing black to shuffle pieces and weakening coordination. Plinio blocks re7, rook interposes, trying to stop the pressure, but white's pieces are too active. Wesley pushes nb4, knight jumps into attack, threatening tactical shots and pins. Plinio responds k4, queen centralizes aggressively, trying to create counterplay. Wesley slides qb3, queen checks again, restricting black's king mobility. Plinio retreats k5, king dodges, but the net is closing. White's dominance is unmistakable. Wesley So calmly moves n6, knight jumps with check, forcing Plinio's king into a defensive posture and increasing tension. Plinio Pazos slides k8, king retreats cautiously, trying to avoid the net closing around him. Wesley So castles kingside with 0-0. Rook swings into play, king safe, army fully coordinated for attack. Plinio Pazos grabs bx3, bishop takes pawn, trying to relieve some pressure and disrupt white's plans. Wesley So recaptures fc3, pawn takes bishop, opening the f-file and strengthening central control. Plinio Pazos repositions, nf5, knight jumps into a defensive post, covering key squares near the king. Wesley So centralizes, nc5, knight eyes b7 and 7, ready to invade further and coordinate with other pieces. Plinio Pazos retreats qe7, queen consolidates, trying to protect weak points and look for trades. Wesley So pushes n6, knight marches into an outpost, threatening black's defenses in key squares. Plinio Pazos responds n7, knight moves to guard key squares, attempting to block white's attacking roots. Wesley So strikes nx7 in, knight captures on g7, opening lines and delivering a sharp check. Plinio Pazos recaptures qx7, queen takes knight, keeping material balance but now exposed to white's attack. Wesley So moves q6, queen checks, forcing black into passive defense and gaining tempo. Plinio Pazos blocks qe7, queen interposes, trying to trade off attackers and relieve pressure. Wesley So thrusts q8, queen check, keeping black's king hemmed in and continuing relentless pressure. Plinio Pazos shields with qd8, queen covers check, a temporary barrier but insufficient to stop white's attack. Wesley So grabs qx-bsb7, queen takes pawn, gaining material and opening the queen side for further assault. Plinio Pazos retreats q7, queen moves back, trying to regroup and prevent further infiltration. Wesley So doubles rooks, with rc7, rook lines up on the 7th rank, reinforcing attack, and eyeing infiltration points. Plinio Pazos pushes kf7, king cautiously steps forward, trying to stay connected to his army but under heavy pressure. Wesley So calmly pushes rh7, rook takes on a7, trading off heavy pieces and cracking open black's defenses. Plinio Pazos recaptures, nx7, knight takes rook, trying to hold the position together but feeling the pressure. Wesley So jumps n6, knight checks king, slicing through black's defensive lines and threatening forks. Plinio Pazos retreats k8, king steps back cautiously, trying to avoid immediate danger. Wesley So castles kingside with 0-0, rook activates and king's safety is secured, white's army fully coordinated. Plinio Pazos grabs bx3, bishop takes pawn, hoping to exchange and relieve pressure, a desperate attempt. Wesley So recaptures fd3, pawn takes bishop, opening the f-file for rook and maintaining central dominance. Plinio Pazos repositions nf5, knight to f5, defending key squares and attempting counterplay. Wesley So centralizes nce5, knight eyes b7 and 7, preparing to infiltrate black's camp. Plinio Pazos slides, q7, queen consolidates, trying to defend against white's growing initiative. Wesley So marches near 6. Knight lands on an outpost, dominating squares and threatening multiple tactical shots. Plinio Pazos blocks with N7. Knight moves to guard key squares, trying to slow down the onslaught. Wesley So strikes Nx E7 in. Knight captures, delivering check and ripping through black's defenses. Plinio Pazos recaptures Qx F7. Queen takes knight, balancing material, but leaving the king more exposed. Wesley So thrusts Q6, queen checks, forcing Plinio into passive defense, keeping the initiative. Plinio Pazos blocks Qe7, queen interposes, hoping to trade queens and reduce threats. Wesley So slides Q8, queen check, cutting off escape squares and tightening the net around the king. Plinio Pazos shields with Q8, queen blocks, a temporary measure, but white's pressure continues. Wesley So captures Qx Bus by 7, queen snatches pawn, opening the queen side and gaining decisive material advantage. Plinio Pazos retreats Qe7, queen moves back, trying to regroup, but white's forces dominate the board. Wesley So calmly pushes H8, rook checks, cutting off escape squares, and keeping Plinio's king hemmed in. Plinio Pazos slides K8, king retreats, trying to escape, but the position is collapsing. Wesley So swings Rx F6, rook takes pawn, cracking open the king side and piling pressure. Plinio Pazos shuffles Rabite. Rook moves defensively, a weak attempt to resist white's dominance. Wesley So marches his king to Kf2, king stepping boldly into the battlefield, safe and commanding. Plinio Pazos attacks with Rb2 no, rook checks, a last annoying poke, but harmless against white's setup. Wesley So sidesteps Kf3, king unharmed, confidently moving toward the center of the action. Plinio Pazos nudges Kf7, king trying to stay connected with his troops, but white's pressure is overwhelming. Wesley So lifts Ra6, rook centralizes, controlling files, and ready for the final strike. Plinio Pazos defends Rebite, rook shuffling, unable to challenge white's coordination. Wesley So marches Kf2, king advances, eyes on all fronts, unstoppable in the endgame. Plinio Pazos moves Kf6, king steps forward, chasing shadows, desperate for counterplay. Wesley So pushes F4, pawn steps up on the queen side, racing toward promotion. Plinio Pazos replies, F5, pawn advances, a last feeble attempt to create threats. Wesley So strikes H4, pawn takes pawn, opening lines and crushing resistance. Plinio Pazos captures Kx5, king takes pawn, but now exposed to white's unstoppable advance. Wesley So pushes A6, pawn charging toward queening, unstoppable and relentless. Plinio Pazos shuffles Kf6, king retreats, powerless to stop the pawn. Wesley So advances A7, and pushes E5, pawns racing to victory. Plinio Pazos resigns. The battlefield is white's, and Wesley So claims a fiery 1-0 victory. I'll end the video here. Please, give me a like and subscribe to my channel. I'll keep finding the best and newest videos to share with you. Thank you so much, and I wish you all happiness and good health. Nen, wun weis sen oer nestenen, in chat figahen.